Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's Wireless Show. You heard it from the Three Bells.
What-o, Harry.
And what-o, Edna. And welcome to Harry and Edna on the Wireless. Now, we're not in the studio. We're on the south coast. Well, not quite, so there's no sea here. We're in the south. Anyway, gone down south to a vintage festival where Edna suggested I try camping. And has it been a success?
Of course it has, Harry. I think with all these things, you just have to embrace them head on. You don't have to worry about the cold and the damp and the creepy crawlies. You just have to kind of embrace it and just embrace being in the outdoors, hanging out with chums till late at night.
Yeah, I must be honest, as I am nearly 102, I don't camp. Ever since I discovered you could pay £60 and go into a hotel and have things like a toilet that flushes and a television that works and a bed that's comfortable and mattresses and carpet and a restaurant to eat your dinners in, I just haven't done camping.
But you're not understanding the experience of camping, Harry, about being able to wake up with the birds singing in the hedgerows and a real feeling of being at one with the outdoors. And, you know, at night it's lovely to hang out outside your tent with your chums, chatting away till the wee small hours, again under the roof of stars. And certainly down here there is no light pollution, so we can really enjoy the evenings.
It is dark, damn dark. And maybe it's harder because we do live in the 1940s postal district. We haven't embraced this glamping monarchy. We are doing it old school in an old bell tent, which is actually remarkably airy. But what happened on the first night? Oh, the camp bed has collapsed, hasn't it? And I ended up sleeping on a boulder the size of Ayers Rock.
OK, so the first night didn't quite go according to plan. Well, it did. It was fine. Right up until about 4 o'clock when we both realised that it was actually quite uncomfortable and we were no longer elevated. We were actually feeling the lumps and the bumps of ground. But, you know, Harry, there's always night two. Night two will be fine.
So you say, I hope so, because one of the benefits it was sold to me of camping was the fact that it saves on money and more time for enjoyment. So I'm sure that'll help pay for the chiropractor that I'm now going to have to go to. And with that, I shall play some tunes.
What ho?
So, dear listener, while Harry's grumbling and I've sent him off to go and get his back cracked by an on-site chiropractor. See, they've got everything here at these campsites. They've even got on-site masseurs and chiropractors. So I've also sent Harry to have his back done. But while he was off going to have his back done, I've encouraged him to go and embrace a bit more of the on-site entertainment. So he's taken a few of our chums along and he's going to have a little wander around. So whilst he's having his back done, let's listen to a tune.
What ho?
Certainly, my name's Ian Thackeray and I work as a traditional blacksmith.
So is this a lifelong apprenticeship that one has to undertake to be a traditional blacksmith? Because it's something that I always seem to imagine from days of old and Victorian days.
Not at all. I mean, I first came across blacksmithing when I was about 11 years old and saw someone making a poker. And then I forgot about it. Went off to university, did a course in business management, sat in an office for a couple of years, and then thought, you know what, there's got to be something better out there than sitting here and just hating waking up and having to go to work. And so I quit my job, phoned up my parents and sort of moved back home the next day. And a couple of days later in the local paper there was an advert for an extra hand in a busy forge. And so I went along, tried out for it, got the job, and it was always something that would see me through until a more suitable career came along. But at the end of the first day I came back, you know, my hands were worked red raw because they were so soft, and I had the biggest smile on my face and just knew that this was it. And I think that was about 7 or 8 years ago now.
It's not something that you see on every high street, so is there the demand then for this sort of work? Because I'm assuming everything here is now made with love and care.
There is these days. Back in about 10 years ago or so, there was a lot of people wanting to have items as cheap as possible, but they've started realising that their set of gates they picked up in a certain high street hardware shop would have has fallen apart 5 or 6 times, and they spent more repairing that than it would have cost for a new gate. And so people are beginning to realise that what they can get from a blacksmith is something exactly what the sort of thing they're exactly after, hand forged, good quality that will see them, their kids, their grandkids through all of their lifetimes.
And I've got to show my ignorance here. Now, young Edna, she has a horse, and that's a farrier. Now, farrier is different, is it, to a blacksmith?
A farrier is different to a blacksmith. A farrier is basically, they have to go through 4 or 5 years of training to be allowed to put the horseshoes on, whereas just simply for the insurance purposes, because you need to know what you're doing, otherwise you could seriously injure a horse. But then that is their speciality for the rest of their career, whereas with me, I do more decorative items, I quite honestly do anything from a horseshoe keyring right up to sets of gates for cemeteries in London. And
we're actually at an event here, and you've got a mobile forge. So is this something? I always assume this was like a big workshop with big furnaces and blowers, but the setup here is somewhat smaller. Is this just for decorative?
No, this one actually gets used. The forge I have at the Vintage Nostalgia Show is actually from World War One and was used by the cavalry regiments. So have it hung on the side of a donkey or a mule that would follow them around while they were on campaign. And then in the evenings they could take it down, get the fire going, tweak any horseshoes they needed for the next day, and then spread the charcoal out and cook their dinner. In comparison to the forge that I use at work, though, this is tiny. Because the one I have at work is a 120 years old, purpose brick-built forge with a brick-built chimney, and it's worlds apart from what I have here. And
I just must quickly end. It's a shame we're radio because there are some wonderful items and decorative items in front of us which you're selling. So is there a website or is there contact details if I just happen to have a spare cemetery that needs new gates?
There is indeed. The website is www.villagesmith.co.uk, or else you can find me on Facebook and Ian Thackeray Blacksmith.
What ho?
Anna,
Meg, Kylie,
Katie,
Flo, Lisa.
We are
The Tootsie Rollers!
It must have been 2 or 3 years since you were last on the show, and it's been a fair while, so what have you been getting up to?
Well, most recently we've been doing all the British summer events, so we've had Chelsea Flower Show, we've got Royal Ascot next week, we've got Hampton Court Flower Show coming up. We've been travelling, went to Casablanca, I don't think we'd been to India when we last spoke to you. Yeah, we've been as far as India. We're spreading the retro Tootsie word wherever we can.
And we've just seen you perform, and there's some new tracks in there. So is this a regular task then? Are you constantly having to listen to whatever it is, the charts, and to find out who gets it?
Yes, we do, as well as loving all the old stuff. We have to keep our finger on the pulse. So recent, contemporary pop stuff, Jess Glynn, Pharrell, all of that kind of stuff, we've got to incorporate into our numbers. Keep it current. And
you also said on stage that the reason you're all looking so wonderful is that you regularly run marathons, at least twice a year. Is it how many marathons in so many days?
We did half a marathon overnight, but that was quite enough for our poor Tootsie feet, thank you. But we did raise a lot of money for charity, and our charity single, Walk the Walk, is out at the moment on iTunes.
So last time you came on the show, you had all these wonderful tracks which we played, yet they weren't available to the public. But I gather the world has since changed.
Yes, indeed. It's an exciting world out there for the Tootsies. Our first album will be available at the second half of this year. Anytime now, actually, probably in the next few weeks. We're hoping to get it out there. And it's taken us a lot of love, a lot of care to get there because we haven't released one until now. And we're really, really pleased with what's happened. We've teamed up with we've got our jazz quartet, the Dappers. They're playing on it and they just sound incredible. So we're really excited.
Well, we have a gorgeous jazz trio, our Dappers. We call them the Dappers, and we play with them as much as we can, and sometimes we even get to scale it up, and we involve many more instrumentalists, but it's a lot of fun, and we've been taking them all over the country with us and abroad, as Lisa mentioned earlier, so it's quite nice to have some strapping escorts with us now. But yeah, they're our Dappers, and they're fabulous, so do try and look out for us this summer at Twinwood or one of the other fabulous summer events upcoming.
Excellent. So we'll have to play out with one of your tracks, obviously, so that people can hear this. But if we want some Tootsie information, where do we go?
Well, I'm actually Techie Tootsie, so I will tell you, but we're all over social media. So we're on Instagram, we're on Snapchat, we're on Twitter as @the_Tootsies, and then on Facebook we're the Tootsie Rollers. And for all of the information, you can come to our website, which is www.thetootsierollers.com. We'd love to see you there.
What ho?
That is the Tootsie Rollers here at the Vintage Festival, and if you want to hear that show, a show with just pure tootsiness, the Tootsie Rollers have actually been on Harry Edna and the Wireless a few years ago. If you go to harryedna.co.uk and click on the tab that says Wireless, you will find the whole back catalogue of our shows. And if you scroll through, it must be, as I say, 3 or 4 years ago, the Tootsie Rollers came into the studio. And I do remember that day well. It was a manic day. I ended up hiding under the mixing desk. It was somewhat scary, because they are such an amazing bunch of ladies that are somewhat... What's the word I'm looking for, young Edna?
They're quite... I want to say full on, but that doesn't sound as nice as I mean it to be. They're so full of joy and youth that they are pretty breezy girls.
Youth. Yep, that sums up what young Harry isn't. Because the camping experience, let's just have a little catch up here. We're right. First day, the camp bed collapsed and I ended up sleeping on Ayers Rock and I've had to go and see a chiropractor. Though there was a little bit of noise and kerfuffle last night when we were camping. This isn't, bearing in mind, young Harry doesn't do camping, doesn't like camping. Can you remember what happened, or did you sleep through it?
Well, we were trying to embrace and help Harry embrace camping to its maximum, and we were actually having good fun. It was all going quite well, quite a late night. We were all a little bit tired, so we all settled down into our snuggly sleeping bags. And it was a beautiful warm evening last night, so we were quite happy, quite full of the joys, snuggling into our sleeping bags to Harry then saying,
Ow. Big ow.
A big ow. Something's gone in my ear. Now, you know what it's like, listeners, when you've just feel sleep just lapping over you and you're just about to snuggle down into a snoozy slumber, and then somebody yells ow and you think, oh, what has happened now? And young Harry yells ow several times and then leaps out of this snuggly sleeping bag and his camp bed that we've now bought him because he didn't want to sleep on the floor for a second night. He then starts rolling around on the floor. So me, being first aider, I leap onto him and pin him down whilst I shine a torch down his ear, and I say to Harry, there seriously is nothing in your ear. Stop being such a big wuss, get yourself on the floor and keep quiet because the children are trying to sleep. But you wouldn't have it.
No, this thing was making a huge noise as it bored into my brain, and it actually was so painful. You have no idea. We had a rubber mat down to put like the boots and shoes on, and because I was conscious of the children in the bedroom, I ended up gnawing into that. There's great big teeth marks in it now from where I was biting down on this thing. So I ended up, you ended up having to go and get help and assistance because I had to be dragged over to the first aiders, and we should give a good plug to our chums at St John's because they're a charity here in Great Britain that do first responder first aid. All for free, do it for charity, guys. And I was ever so grateful because I was in so much pain I couldn't actually walk. Young Edna and another one of our chums, you had to sort of carry me there, which was fun, in my pyjamas in the middle of the night with me going, you know what, this really is a bit smarting in my ear.
Yeah, but try and imagine it, listeners, 10 times as loud, screaming. We then, because it's very dark, and we were both in bare feet, and then had to walk over a gravel path to get to the first aider with Harry yelling and screaming and shouting about this thing he's got in his ear. So the poor old first aider must have thought, what on earth am I having to deal with here, as Harry screams and shouts. So we managed to, I managed to sort of manhandle him down onto the stretcher and sit on him because he was writhing around in a little bit of agony. For the first aider, bless him, he must have thought, how on earth do I deal with this? Because it's not every day you get somebody with a painful ear. So he decided to pour a jug of water into Harry's ear, tipped him over, nothing happened. Another jug of water into your ear, and that felt a bit better.
Yeah, I didn't actually see this, but you saw the thing crawl out my ear just to prove there was a bug in there. And you said it was the size of a small family car.
No, Harry, it was one of those moments where you kind of depict this horror film of this little creature crawling out of Harry's ear, and it was quite difficult not to go, oh my God, but keep calm and stay calm and not freak Harry out as this beetle, yes, a beetle crawled out of his ear. It really was like something out of a horror film. And the first aid had caught it, and we showed it off quite proudly to our chum, who couldn't, well, just literally to help him believe the size of the thing that had just crawled out of Harry's ear.
Because we're talking something, I didn't see it, but about 1.5 centimetres long. Anyway, full hats off to the St. John's. I've now got a really icky ear at the moment, which is why young Edna's having to do the sound at this festival, because I'm in so much, I've got a bit of an achy ear. So yes, camping, yes, I embrace it. Won't be ever doing this again. In fact, no. Here's the tune.
What ho?
So hello, I'm under the tarpaulin and I am with...
James Russell. Charles Russell Classic Cars.
So I'm with James from Charles Russell. So I'm assuming there was a connection there.
Well, Charles is my son, yeah. So I've named the business for him, which will absolutely guarantee that he doesn't go into the classic car business, of course.
I guess the title of what you guys do is in the name of classic cars, but what is it actually the organisation does?
Well, we source and sell and restore classic cars for customers who perhaps don't have enough time to find what they're looking for themselves, or don't have enough time to look after it, or don't wish to look after it themselves. It's like a consultancy, really, that covers all aspects of running and owning a classic car.
I must admit, I've always wanted to own one, and I have friends who do own them, and they all tell me don't, because it will live on our drives, because I honestly haven't got the faintest idea how to maintain these wonderful cars. So I'm not unique in that then.
No, not really. And we have some cars that we actually store for customers as well, and we'll transport them to where they want them to be. That's not to say that's typical. A lot of our customers do look after their own cars, and we build a relationship with them, and they may wish to then get another car because they know us. They ask us whether we can help them in that search. It's a very wide, diverse range of people who are into classic cars these days. It's not just, I think in the old days it used to be all tinkerers and people who knew exactly what they were doing and how to make them run, but it's very, very broad now.
That's cool. Now you're here today. There's a lot of people showing their classic cars, but you've actually, as yours have got pound signs in, I'm assuming they actually are for sale. So what have you bought today?
So we've a selection of cars here today, which we hope are quite diverse, reflecting that this show, which is a diverse show, 3 of these cars here in front of us are customers' cars that they've asked us to market for them, find new homes. The one on the end there is my own car, which we've decided we need to sell because of another project. If I just talk you through them perhaps, from left to right here, at the far end we've got a racing green AC Cobra replica, and that is a fiberglass car. It's a beautiful bodied car. It's built by one of the most sort of renowned of the replica makers, Jack Hawke. That is a car that is based on the running gear of another vehicle, which is why it has a dated registration plate on it. It's not a classic car as such. It's more of a toy, but it's got that iconic shape to it, and it's very usable. And it's about 5%. That's around 30,000. That car, and it's about 5% the value of a real one. Next to that, we have quite an interesting sky blue, I suppose, maybe a bit deeper. I think it's called Olympic blue, restored Ford Prefect. That's a 1957 car that a lot of people have memories of, maybe their parents or even grandparents having them back in the day. It's got sort of the sun visor, Bakelite steering wheel. It's a beautiful car with white wall tyres. Very basic motoring, as a lot of people at the show have been commenting. They've got memories of those sorts of cars, but it's a beautiful car, and it's a step back in time if you want to sort of trundle along the back road and go to the pub on the weekend. And that's a long-standing customer who had that car. We've looked after it for a few years now, wants to sell it. And the third car we've got here is it's a 1950s car. It's an Alvis, actually. Alvis were a very interesting English low-volume producer of sports cars. They used to pitch themselves above Jaguar but below Bentley and Rolls. Also known as a rakes car back in the day. Sort of the slightly bad gentleman used to drive fast Alvises. This is a lovely car, early 50s again, based on a pre-war design, so it's quite old-fashioned looking with the bonnet that opens sideways and out the front. A fantastic car, capable of 100 miles an hour. Coach built by Mulliner, who used to also do the Rolls and Bentley bodies, and that's a car we previously sold to a customer who now has an XK150, which is a Jaguar that we're completing and needs to make space in his garage. And then finally, at the end here, is my little Vanden Plas, which has probably been the most popular or talked about car at this show. They're based on the old 1100 that lots of people sort of remember passing their driving test in or driving back in the day. But Vanden Plas was sort of badge engineering, really. By that stage, they had at one stage been quite a famous coach builder, but the Vanden Plas really was the top of the range model. So although it's built around a tiny basic, more effectively British Leyland car, you've got walnut veneer in there, got little picnic tables in the back for your passengers in the back. They used to have lamb's wool over rugs as well, reclining seats, all sorts of things that were quite serious in the early 1970s. And yeah, a very interesting car. Very rare now. They suffered from rot, as did a lot of British cars of that generation. But very sweet, and a really quite a fast sort of appreciating classic. People are cottoning on that they are drivable, usable, fun, and making some money. So it's quite a diverse range we've got here today.
And I'm assuming this is just a small selection of what you have available. So is the best place the internet? And in which case, what's the site?
Yes, I mean, we have a website. It's www.charlesrussellclassics, all one word, .co.uk. Not everything we have is on the website. For various reasons, we may just have been asked to market a car, but there is certainly a wider selection than what we have here today. So yeah, please do check it out.
Excellent. Now, the Cobra, fiberglass, modern car. You haven't mentioned this to Edna, have you? Because that's the car she was eyeing up, and I'm assuming for someone who's a novice like me, does this mean you've got the benefit of modern engineering, or is it still a car you're going to have to love and care and have someone who knows what they're doing?
I would say it's halfway. I mean, the advantage of the fiberglass there is that it won't, it's not going to rust on you. It is based around, more modern technology, but at the end of the day, that's a Rover V8 engine that's in there. That's, albeit developed, it goes back to the 1950s. Your components are all newer because that car was built in 2006, but it's not a sort of turnkey modern car equivalent in an old car clothing. It's sort of somewhere between a modern car and an original classic.
So I'm quite safe then. She won't make me buy that then. I'm quite pleased about that. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you.
What ho?
So as Harry and I sit here contemplating me having to now bribe him and talk him back into trying camping again, as he kits himself out with a sleeping mask, because that was the other thing that he was moaning, that the sun came up really early and he woke up, and we put some ear defenders on him and I zip him into his mummified sleeping bag. We sit here in this beautiful sunny afternoon here in a field down south, and I'm afraid it's a toodle pip from me.
And just before I say tinkly tonk, I also I want a proper bed next time that doesn't collapse if I'm going to do camping again. And more importantly, I want my own loo. We haven't discussed the facilities, but they were. It took me back to... I would say medieval age, but it was a bit more basic than that. We're pretty much in the Stone Age with the toiletry arrangements.
Harry, people are probably eating their dinner whilst they're listening to us. I think we just leave it there, okay?
Dinky tonk.
Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's want to show